The email came at 2:47 a.m., a single subject line that froze my blood. Call me immediately. It was from Richard Crane, my lawyer for over 15 years, the man who handled my divorce, my company's legal matters, even my will. He was steady, calm, the definition of composed professionalism. For him to send that at this hour meant something was terribly wrong. I dialed him instantly, my fingers trembling. The line clicked once, twice. Then his voice came through, low, uneven, as though he were trying to contain something. Daniel. Thank God you called. What's going on? I asked, heart hammering. It's nearly 3 in the morning, Richard. He exhaled shakily. It's about your daughter. For a second, the world went soundless. What about Lily? He can't explain this over the phone, but you need to come to my office right now. And Daniel, his tone sharpened, come alone. I was already grabbing my keys. Richard, you're scaring me. Is she hurt? Silence. Then, no. But after tonight, you'll wish she were just hurt. The line went dead. It was raining outside, the kind of relentless, heavy rain that makes the streets gleam like mirrors. As I drove through the near-empty city, I couldn't stop replaying his words. You'll wish she were just hurt. Lily had been staying with her mother, my ex-wife, Claire, for the past week. We'd had our arguments. Normal teenage rebellion, I thought. But nothing that could justify a call like that. When I arrived, Richard's office was half lit. He stood by the window, his tie loosened, eyes red-rimmed and tired. A file lay open on his desk, its contents scattered. "Richard," I started, "what the hell is this about?" He didn't answer. Instead, he gestured to the chair opposite him. "You need to sit down." "I'm not sitting until you tell me what's going on with my daughter." He looked at me for a long moment. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "Lily isn't who you think she is."
I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? He reached into the file and slid a document toward me. It was an official-looking paper. DNA results, stamped, signed. My eyes skimmed the text until they caught on one line, printed in bold. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. I felt my throat close. "That's not possible," I said, shaking my head. "There has to be some mistake." Richard didn't speak. He just watched me, the way someone watches a wounded animal trying to understand its pain. "Claire and I had issues," I said, my voice cracking. "But Lily was born during our marriage. She's my daughter." "Daniel," Richard said softly. "Claire knew. She knew all along." I stared at him, words dying in my mouth. "She told you that?" "He didn't have to," he said, tapping another document. "His attorney sent me this yesterday. Claire's terminally ill, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She doesn't have long, and before she goes, she wanted to make peace, as she called it." I sat back, numb. My mind was racing through memories. Lily's first steps, her drawings on the fridge, her laughter when I'd push her on the swings. All of it real. All of it ours. "She named the real father," Richard went on quietly. "And that's why I needed you to come here tonight." He turned another page, revealing a photograph. The face that stared up at me from the glossy paper made my stomach twist. I recognized him immediately. It was Mark Holloway, my business partner, my closest friend for over 2 decades. Richard kept talking, but I barely heard him. Words like affair, financial manipulation, custody rights, blurred together. My mind was caught somewhere between disbelief and fury. When I finally spoke, my voice didn't sound like mine. "You're telling me Mark slept with my wife and Lily is his daughter?" Richard nodded slowly. "Yes, and there's more." He handed me one final envelope. Inside were bank statements, transactions between Claire's account and a company I'd never heard of. "They've been moving money for years," Richard said grimly. "Under your name." I looked up sharply. "What do you mean, under my name?" "They used your credentials, Daniel. Someone on the inside. That company doesn't exist. It's a shell used to drain funds from your firm. Over $700,000 has been diverted." I could barely process it. "You're saying Mark and Claire worked together?" "Yes." The room began to spin. I gripped the edge of the desk to steady myself. Richard continued. "Before she dies, Claire wants to confess everything. She's agreed to meet you tomorrow morning. She says she'll explain why she did it." I stood there, shaking. After 15 years of lies, she suddenly wants forgiveness? Richard sighed. "Maybe not forgiveness. Maybe just a clean conscience before she goes." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The rain outside had turned into a dull roar, drowning the silence between us. Finally, I said quietly, "Does Lily know?" Richard hesitated. "No, not yet. But there's something else you should understand before you meet Claire. Something she didn't include in the letter, but mentioned in the call I had with her tonight." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Mark isn't just her father, Daniel. He's the reason she's in danger now." My chest tightened. "What do you mean, danger?" Richard's expression darkened. "Because the money they stole, it wasn't just from you." He reached into the file once more and pulled out a photograph. Grainy, clearly taken from a surveillance camera. 3 men, all unfamiliar, standing outside what looked like a warehouse. Richard pointed to the man in the center. "That's who's been asking questions about Lily lately. His name's Viktor Krasnov, Russian background. And according to what Claire told me," he paused, his jaw tightening, "Mark owed him nearly $2 million. The room seemed to close in on me, the weight of it all pressing down until I could hardly breathe. And then my phone buzzed. A message from Lily. "Dad, please help me. There's a man outside the house." The text came with a photo, blurry, taken from her bedroom window. The same man Richard had just pointed to in the surveillance image. I froze, staring at the photo on my phone until my vision blurred. It couldn't be real. It couldn't. The timestamp said 3:28 a.m. She sent it less than a minute ago. My pulse started pounding so hard it drowned out every other sound in the room. "Richard," I rasped. "He's at her house." He looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" I shoved the phone toward him. He squinted, his face going pale. "Christ," he muttered. "That's him." I didn't wait for another word. I snatched my keys from the table and bolted for the door. Richard called after me, "Daniel, wait! You don't know what you're walking into." But I wasn't listening anymore. My body moved on instinct, pure, desperate instinct. The rain was heavier now, battering the windshield like fists. My mind spun with every possible horror that could be unfolding at that very moment. Lily, my Lily, was alone, and somewhere out there was a man who'd crossed international borders to find her, because of Mark, because of a lie that started before she was even born. I dialed her number as I drove, but it rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. My throat felt raw from how hard I was breathing. When I turned onto our street, I saw it immediately. A dark sedan idling by the curb, lights off, rain cascading down its roof. My stomach dropped. I parked a few houses down, killed the engine, and grabbed the tire iron from under the seat. My hand was slick with sweat and rain as I crept closer. Through Lily's front window, faint light flickered. The living room lamp, maybe. But it looked wrong. Too dim. Too still. I edged around the car. Empty. The driver's seat was wet, meaning someone had been out recently. My pulse quickened. I moved up the front path, keeping low, the rain masking my steps. Then I saw movement. A figure at the window, tall, broad shoulders, head turning slightly, as if scanning the room. I didn't think. I ran. The door was unlocked. I crashed inside, yelling her name. "Lily!" A shadow moved in the hallway. Then a scream. Her scream. I charged toward it, rounding the corner just as a man lunged toward the back door. For a split second our eyes met, his face rough, scarred, cold. He shoved me hard, but I caught his coat, yanking him back. The tire iron flew from my hand as we slammed into the kitchen counter. He hit me in the ribs, once, twice, with brutal precision. Pain shot through my side, but adrenaline drowned most of it. I slammed his arm against the cabinet, hearing a sickening crack. He howled, twisting away, and I saw something glint in his other hand. A knife. I ducked just as the blade sliced past my face. He swung again, missing by inches. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a glass bowl, and smashed it across his jaw. He staggered. I kicked his leg out from under him, sending him sprawling. "Dad!" Lily's voice came from behind me. I turned to see her standing at the stairs, trembling, phone clutched in her hand. He broke the window!" "Call the police!" I shouted. The man was already scrambling to his feet, bleeding, but not slowing down. He grabbed the side door handle, kicked it open, and vanished into the darkness. I ran after him, but by the time I reached the yard, he was gone. Only the sound of tires screeching as the sedan tore away down the road. The rain soaked me to the bone. I stood there for a moment, chest heaving, trying to make sense of what just happened. Then Lily's arms wrapped around me from behind, shaking. "Dad, who was that?" I pulled her close. "I don't know," I lied. "But you're safe now. That's all that matters." Except she wasn't safe. Neither were we. By the time the police arrived, lights flashing, neighbors gathering under umbrellas, the house was a wreck. Officers moved through the rooms, taking photos, marking footprints, collecting the broken glass from the kitchen floor. One of them, a young detective named Harris, questioned me in the living room while Lily sat wrapped in a blanket. "Did you recognize the intruder?" he asked. I hesitated. No, it was too dark. Richard's warning echoed in my head. You don't know who you're dealing with. I couldn't tell the police everything, not yet. Not until I understood what Mark and Claire had dragged us into. When they finally left, I sat beside Lily. She was quiet, eyes distant. "Dad, what's happening? Why would someone come after us?" I forced a calm I didn't feel. "It's going to be okay, I promise." But inside, something had shifted. The father in me wanted to protect her. The man in me wanted answers. I waited until she fell asleep, then stepped outside to call Richard. He picked up on the first ring. "She's safe," I said. "But he was here, Richard. That man you showed me, he broke into the house." "I was afraid of that," he murmured. "Listen carefully, Daniel. You can't stay there. Not tonight. They might come back."
"Where do you want me to go?" "There's a cabin north of the city. It belongs to a friend of mine. Secluded, off-grid. I'll send you the address. Go there before sunrise." I rubbed my temples. "And what about Claire?" There was a pause. "She called me again an hour ago," Richard said quietly. "She's insisting on seeing you both together. She said she can't die until you hear everything." I stared into the darkness, rain dripping from the roof, the weight of it all pressing down like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. "Tomorrow," I said finally. "We'll go tomorrow. Be careful. Mark's people might be watching you." His words lingered long after I hung up. Mark's people. The phrase felt poisonous. I went back inside, locked every door, checked every window twice. Then I stood in the doorway of Lily's room, watching her sleep. For a fleeting moment, she looked just like she did when she was 5. Peaceful, safe, untouched by the chaos of adults. I wanted to tell her everything, that her mother was dying, that her father, her real father, had built a lie so deep it could destroy us all. But I couldn't. Not yet.
So instead, I sat on the edge of her bed, listening to the rain, and whispered, "I'll fix this, Lily, whatever it takes." Then my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "You should have stayed out of it, Daniel. Now it's too late." My stomach tightened as I read the message again, each word cutting deeper. "You should have stayed out of it, Daniel. Now it's too late." No name, no number, just a blank contact and a chill that crawled up my spine. I looked at Lily, still asleep, her chest rising and falling softly, and felt that strange primal urge that only a parent can understand, the kind that makes you want to destroy whatever threatens your child. I stepped quietly into the hallway and locked myself in my study. My hands trembled as I texted Richard, "Someone just sent me a message. They know what's happening." The 3 dots blinked for almost a full minute before his reply came, "Don't respond to it. Don't delete it either. Just get out now. Take Lily and go to the cabin. I'll meet you there." I stared at the words. Something in his tone felt off, or maybe I was just too far gone into paranoia to trust anything anymore. I opened the curtains and glanced outside. The street was silent, slick with rain. But halfway down, beneath a flickering streetlight, a car sat idling. The same black sedan. My pulse jumped. I killed the lights, grabbed my jacket, and ran upstairs. I shook Lily awake. "Sweetheart, we have to go." She blinked groggily. "What? It's still dark. Get your shoes now." Something in my voice must have told her this wasn't a drill. Within minutes we were in the car, speeding down the wet road, the city lights blurring behind us. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see headlights closing in, but there was nothing. For the first 20 minutes we drove in silence. Lily hugged her knees to her chest, watching the rain race across the window. Finally, she spoke. "Dad, are you going to tell me what's going on?" I swallowed hard. "Someone broke into the house tonight. The man who did it, he was dangerous. We need to get somewhere safe." "Was it because of Mom?" The question hit me like a slap. I glanced at her. "Why would you say that?" She hesitated. "Mom called me yesterday. She sounded strange. Said she was sorry for everything. Then she started crying. I didn't understand what she meant. I thought she was just upset about being sick." My hands tightened on the wheel. "What else did she say?" "She said she needed to see you, that there were things I didn't know, things she should have told me years ago." I exhaled slowly. So Claire was reaching out to Lily too, maybe her own way of trying to unburden herself before the end. But what else had she said? What else had she kept hidden? The road stretched ahead into the darkness, winding through the dense trees of the northern forest. The rain had thinned into mist, but the air felt heavier somehow, thick with secrets. After another hour, I turned onto a narrow dirt path that cut into the woods. The cabin sat at the end, exactly where Richard had said it would be, old, secluded, half hidden behind overgrown pines, the kind of place you could disappear in without anyone noticing. I parked near the porch and stepped out first, scanning the tree line. No movement. No sound except for the drip of rain from the branches. "Come on," I said, softly. "We'll stay here tonight." Inside, the cabin smelled of dust and wood smoke. It was small, but functional. 2 rooms, a fireplace, and an old rotary phone mounted on the wall. I turned on a lamp, its yellow light cutting through the gloom. Lily wandered to the window, peering out. "It's kind of creepy," she murmured. "Yeah," I said, "but it's safe. That's what matters." I tried calling Richard's office landline, but there was no answer, just an endless tone. I tried his cell next, straight to voicemail. A sick, crawling unease crept into my chest. I poured water into a kettle and placed it on the stove, more to keep myself occupied than anything. My mind wouldn't stop spinning. Who sent that text? How did they know where we were? And if the intruder was working for Krasnov, what did he want with Lily? I was staring into the flames when a soft sound made me turn. Lily was holding a folded piece of paper. "Dad," she said, frowning. "This was in my backpack." I took it from her. The paper was damp at the edges, as if it had been slipped inside without her noticing. My heart started pounding again. There were only 6 words written in black ink. "You can't protect her forever, Daniel." I felt my blood run cold. "Where did this come from?" I asked sharply. I don't know," she stammered. "I packed it yesterday. Maybe Mom—" "No," I said, quickly. "Your mother wouldn't do this." I tore open her bag and searched through it, finding nothing else. But whoever had placed that note there had been close enough to touch her things, close enough to reach her. I checked the locks again, then drew the curtains. The rain had stopped completely, leaving behind a silence that was almost worse. We sat together near the fire, the glow flickering across her face. "Dad," she whispered after a while, "do you think Mom's going to die soon?" The question cracked something inside me. "She's very sick, sweetheart, but she wants to see us. We'll go tomorrow, okay? We'll see her." Lily nodded, curling into herself, her eyes glistening in the firelight. "I don't want anything bad to happen to you." I brushed her hair back. "Nothing will, I promise." But I didn't believe my own words. When she finally drifted off to sleep on the couch, I stayed awake listening to every creak of the cabin. Every gust of wind outside made me flinch. Around 4 a.m., the fire had burned down to embers, and I went to the window. That's when I saw it, a faint red light moving through the trees, slow, deliberate, like someone holding a phone or a laser pointer. I ducked instinctively and turned off the lamp. My pulse thundered in my ears. Peering through the crack in the curtain, I could see it more clearly now. A figure standing near the edge of the clearing, half hidden behind a tree, watching the cabin. I reached for my phone. No signal. The nearest town was miles away. The figure moved again, stepping closer, the light flickering across his face for a brief moment, long enough for me to recognize him. Mark. He looked older, thinner, but unmistakable. My former best friend. The man who had destroyed my marriage, my trust, my family. And now he was here. For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, that the dim light, the exhaustion, the chaos of the night had conjured his face out of shadows. But when he stepped closer into the clearing, there was no doubt left. It was him. Mark Holloway. My pulse drummed in my throat. I hadn't seen him in person in almost 2 years, not since the board meeting where I'd accused him of falsifying expense reports, and he'd smiled, calm and unbothered, as if the truth couldn't touch him. That smile had haunted me for months afterward. Now he was standing in the rain outside the cabin where my daughter slept, holding a flashlight and watching us like a predator waiting for the right moment to move. I grabbed the poker from beside the fireplace and crept toward the door, careful not to make a sound. But when I reached the front window again, he was gone. The forest was still. I waited, every muscle tight, scanning the trees for any sign of movement. Nothing. Just darkness and the faint whisper of wind through the branches. My phone still had no signal. I checked the battery. 11%. I cursed under my breath and slid it into my pocket. From behind me, Lily stirred on the couch. "Dad?" she mumbled sleepily. "Shh," I whispered. "It's okay. Go back to sleep." She rubbed her eyes. "Is someone outside?" I hesitated, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Probably just an animal." But she sat up, peering toward the dark window. That wasn't an animal. There was fear in her voice, the same fear I was trying to keep out of mine. I moved quickly to the door and slid the deadbolt in place. "Listen to me carefully," I said. "If I tell you to hide, you go into the back room and stay there, no matter what happens. Do you understand?" She nodded, her eyes wide. I turned off the remaining lights, plunging the room into near darkness. The faint glow from the dying fire cast long shadows across the floor. Minutes crawled by. Nothing. Just silence. Then, a sound. A slow, deliberate crunch of footsteps on wet leaves outside the door. I raised the poker, my grip slick with sweat. Another step. Then another. Whoever it was wasn't trying to be quiet anymore. A shadow passed across the window, followed by a faint knock on the door. Daniel. The voice was unmistakable. Calm, controlled. The same voice that once discussed stock portfolios over whiskey in my study, that once toasted to friendship that lasts longer than business. "Open the door," he said. "We need to talk." I felt my stomach twist. "You've got a strange way of wanting to talk," I said through the wood. "You send men to my house in the middle of the night?" "Not me," he replied smoothly. "That was Krasnov's doing. He thinks you have something that belongs to him. What could I possibly have that interests him?" A pause. Then, "Your daughter." My throat dried. "You're lying." "I wish I were." He shifted closer to the door, his voice dropping lower. "You don't know who you're dealing with, Daniel. Krasnov doesn't care about me, or you, or Claire. He cares about what's hidden, what Claire stole before she got sick, something she left for Lily." I blinked. "Left for Lily? What are you talking about?" "She never told you?" He almost sounded amused. "Of course she didn't. Claire was clever, I'll give her that. She moved the money out of the shell account before I could stop her. Millions. She hid it somewhere, and Krasnov thinks Lily knows where it is." "That's insane! She's 16! Which makes her the perfect decoy. But Krasnov doesn't believe she's innocent. He's already sent people to find her. The man you thought in your kitchen, that was just a warning." My hand tightened on the poker. "Why are you here then? To finish what he started?"
"No," he said sharply. "To stop him." I laughed bitterly. "You expect me to believe that? After everything you did? You think I want this? You think I wanted any of this to come out? Claire panicked. She told Krasnov she'd give him the account codes in exchange for protection. But when she realized what he planned to do, when she understood he'd use Lily as leverage, she hid the codes and went underground. Now he's coming for her, and for the girl." The words hit me like a hammer. My mind spun back to the DNA test, to Richard's warning, to the man at my house. Every piece of the puzzle was beginning to align horribly, perfectly. "Where's Claire now?" I asked. "She's under hospital care in the city, palliative wing. But Krasnov has people there. That's why I'm here, to get you both out before he finds you." I hesitated, torn between rage and confusion. Everything about this smelled wrong. Mark had lied before, manipulated me. But the fear in his voice now sounded real. Too real to fake. Behind me, Lily whispered, "Dad? Who is that?" I turned, motioning for her to stay back. "Just someone I used to know," I said quietly. Mark must have heard her because he said, softer now, "Lily, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you." She froze. Her eyes met mine, searching for some truth. "Dad, why does he know my name?" Before I could answer, headlights swept briefly across the clearing, bright, blinding, cutting through the trees. Then another set, and another. 3 cars. They stopped at the edge of the woods, engines still running. Mark cursed under his breath. They followed me. "Who?" I hissed. "Krasnov's men." Then came the sound, doors slamming, voices calling out in Russian-accented English. "Bring them out alive!" I rushed to the back door, peering through the narrow glass pane. Figures in dark coats were moving through the trees, flashlights flickering between the trunks. I turned to Mark. "You led them here." "I didn't know they were tailing me," he snapped.
We don't have time for this. There's a back trail. Through the woods, you and Lily can take it to the old highway. I'll hold them off. You're out of your mind. He stepped forward, eyes burning. You think I owe you nothing, Daniel. Maybe I do, but I owe her everything. He looked toward Lily. She doesn't deserve any of this. Outside, branches snapped. Closer now, voices shouting. I grabbed Lily's hand. We're leaving. Mark reached into his coat, pulled out a small black pistol, and chambered a round. Take the trail behind the shed, you'll see a fence, break through it, and keep going until you reach the main road. Don't stop for anything. I wanted to argue, to scream at him for every lie he'd ever told, but there wasn't time. Go! He shouted. The first gunshot shattered the window. Lily screamed. I pulled her toward the back door as glass exploded behind us. Mark ducked, returning fire, shouting something I couldn't make out. We ran into the forest, the cold mud sucking at our shoes, branches tearing at our clothes. The gunfire echoed through the trees, closer than I wanted to believe. Dad, what's happening? Lily cried, gripping my hand. Just keep running, I said. Don't look back. Somewhere behind us, another shot rang out, then silence. And that silence was worse than the noise. The silence was thick and unnatural, the kind that presses against your eardrums and makes you realize how far you are from help. The forest swallowed every sound except our footsteps. I kept Lily close, half dragging her over wet roots and rocks, the faint glow of the moon just enough to guide us. My heart pounded violently. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. Behind us, somewhere in the dark, a single gunshot echoed, then another, closer this time. I didn't know who was firing or at whom. Mark's voice had vanished into the night. For a fleeting moment, I almost hoped he'd made it out alive, but the thought vanished as quickly as it came. I couldn't afford to think about him, not now. Dad! Lily gasped, stumbling on a fallen branch. I caught her before she fell. I can't run anymore. I knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. I know, sweetheart. Just a little farther, okay? We have to get to the road. Her face was streaked with mud and rain, eyes wide with exhaustion and fear. Why are they after us? What did Mom do? I hesitated. She deserved the truth, but I didn't even know the whole truth myself. Your mom made some mistakes, but none of this is your fault. I promise you that. A branch cracked somewhere behind us, close, too close. I grabbed her hand again and pushed forward, weaving through the trees until we reached a clearing. The outline of a wire fence glimmered ahead, just as Mark had said. Beyond it, the faint shimmer of asphalt, the highway. We're almost there, I whispered. But when we reached the fence, I saw it wasn't as simple as he'd made it sound. Rusted barbs lined the top, and it was higher than I expected. Too high for Lily to climb easily. I boosted her up, ignoring the scrape of metal biting into my palms. She slipped once, then got her footing, hoisting herself over. I followed, landing hard on the other side, pain jolting through my ankle. I gritted my teeth and pulled her toward the road. Headlights appeared in the distance, a car coming fast. I stepped into the middle of the road, waving my arms like a madman. Hey, stop, please! The car slowed. Relief surged through me, until it stopped 20 feet away, and I saw the silhouette of a man step out. Not a police officer, not a passerby. He wore a black coat, his face partially hidden under the brim of a cap, and when he raised his head, I recognized him instantly. Viktor Krasnov, the same face from Richard's photo. Lily's grip tightened around my arm. Dad, who is that? I didn't answer. Krasnov's eyes gleamed in the dark, cold and unhurried. He started walking toward us, hands in his pockets, as though this were a casual meeting. Mr. Crane sends his regards, he said in accented English. For a moment I thought I'd misheard him. What? Your lawyer, he continued calmly. Mr. Crane. He called himself. My chest went cold. That's impossible. He smiled faintly. He said you would run north. He was right. He said you might even have the Guttle with you. I stared at him, the words sinking in like poison. Richard, my lawyer, the one man I'd trusted completely, the one who said he wanted to protect us. You're lying, I said, but my voice cracked. Am I? He tilted his head. He gave me the cabin address, Daniel. He even told me about the trail behind the shed. My stomach turned. The pieces began to shift again, rearranging into something far more sinister. Krasnov took another step forward. You and I want the same thing. The codes, the ones your wife hid. Give them to me and no one else has to die. I don't have any codes. I don't even know what you're talking about. He sighed, as if disappointed. You Americans always think you can bluff, but you should know something. He pulled something from his coat, a small phone, and tapped the screen. A video began to play. Claire, lying in a hospital bed, pale and trembling. A man's voice, Krasnov's, spoke off camera. Tell him, Claire. Tell Daniel where it is. Her lips parted, weak and broken. Lily has it. She doesn't know, but she has it. Then the video cut off. Lily's breathing hitched. Mom!
Krasnov slipped the phone back into his pocket. She was loyal, even in the end. She didn't give me what I needed, but she made sure you would. I stepped in front of Lily, my voice trembling with fury. If you touch her, he raised a hand, almost casually. No need for threats, Mr. Harlow. I don't hurt children. I just take what I'm owed. He glanced past me, scanning the trees. Where is Holloway? I don't know, I said. He smirked. He said the same thing about you before he died. Something inside me snapped. I lunged forward, slamming into him with all the force I had left. We hit the ground hard, his pistol skidding across the asphalt. He twisted beneath me, surprisingly strong, and drove his knee into my ribs. Pain exploded through my side. Run, Lily, I shouted. She hesitated for a split second, then bolted into the woods. Krasnov clawed at my throat, his fingers like iron. Spots danced in my vision. I grabbed a rock from the roadside and smashed it into his shoulder. He roared, the grip loosening just enough for me to roll away. He was fast, back on his feet before I was. He kicked me once, hard, sending me sprawling into the ditch. I heard him curse in Russian, then the click of a gun being cocked. I didn't think. I grabbed a handful of gravel and flung it at his face, then scrambled into the trees, the sound of bullets tearing through branches behind me. Lily, I shouted, keep running! I followed the faint sound of her footsteps ahead, crashing through the brush until we reached an old wooden bridge spanning a narrow creek. She was standing there, trembling, tears streaking her face. Dad, I don't know where to go. I pulled her into my arms, scanning the darkness. We had to keep moving, had to find shelter before Krasnov caught up. Then, from somewhere ahead, a car engine started. Headlights flickered through the trees. A different car this time. I shielded Lily with my arm, squinting through the glare. The door opened, and a figure stepped out. It wasn't Krasnov. It wasn't Mark, either. It was Richard. His suit was soaked through, his hair plastered to his forehead. He looked almost ghost-like in the headlights. Daniel, he said, his voice calm, measured, the same tone he'd used 100 times before when explaining contracts. You've made this much harder than it needed to be. I stared at him, disbelief and rage mixing in my chest. You betrayed us? He sighed. You think I wanted to? You think I had a choice? He reached into his coat, and I saw the glint of something metallic. Now please,
Just hand her over." I froze. The rain was falling harder now, blurring the edges of the world, making everything shimmer like a half-forgotten nightmare. Richard's hand hovered near his coat, the faint gleam of the weapon inside glinting beneath the headlights. "Hand her over?" I repeated, my voice barely human. "You're asking me to give you my daughter?" Richard's expression didn't waver, but I saw something flicker behind his eyes, guilt or maybe pity. "Daniel, please, this isn't what you think. I've been trying to protect her from the beginning, but you ran. You made them panic." Krasnov's voice echoed faintly behind us, closer now. "Richard, you still playing savior?"
Richard's eyes darted toward the sound. "We don't have time, Daniel. Listen to me. If Krasnov gets that data, thousands of people could die. I've been working to keep it out of his hands, but I can't do it alone anymore. Give me Lily's pendant, the one her mother gave her." Lily instinctively grasped the silver pendant hanging around her neck, a tiny locket shaped like a teardrop. Claire had given it to her on her 8th birthday. She never took it off. "You said it was for Mom." Richard nodded. "It is, and inside it is the only copy of the code Claire created, a digital signature that controls access to a program capable of wiping global financial ledgers. That's why they want her." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It all came together in a sick, twisted puzzle. Claire's secrecy, the hidden accounts, the fear in her eyes when she'd whispered, "If something happens to me, keep Lily safe." The air split with the crack of a gunshot. Bark emerged beside Richard's head as he dove for cover. Krasnov emerged from the trees, his coat flapping, his pistol gleaming in the rain. "Too late for stories, my friend," he said coldly. "Hand her over, or I'll take her body instead." Richard ducked behind his car, returning fire. The sound of bullets tore through the night. I pulled Lily behind a fallen log, shielding her as splinters rained down. "Dad, I'm scared," she whimpered. "I know, but listen to me. You have to be brave. No matter what happens, you hold on to that pendant. Don't let anyone take it." Her small hand tightened around the chain. "What are you going to do?" I glanced toward Richard. He was bleeding, his shoulder grazed, but still firing. Krasnov was circling, relentless. There was only one way this ended, and it wasn't with us running anymore. When Krasnov stepped out from behind the trees reloading, I lunged. My shoulder slammed into him before he could raise his weapon. We tumbled into the mud, his gun spinning out of reach. He struck me hard across the face, my vision flashing white. "Do you even know what she's carrying? That code could end nations. It's not meant for you." "I don't care what it's meant for," I growled, forcing him back. "She's my daughter." He grinned, blood trickling from his lip. "Then you'll die for her." He reached for the fallen gun, and a shot rang out. Krasnov's body jolted once, then went still. I looked up. Richard stood there, arm shaking, smoke curling from the barrel of his pistol. For a long moment none of us moved. Only the rain spoke, soft and endless. Then Richard dropped the gun and sank to his knees. "It's over," he murmured, voice breaking. "It's finally over." But I didn't trust him. I stepped forward slowly. "You said you wanted to protect her. Why should I believe that now?" He looked up, eyes hollow. "Because I lost everything trying to. The firm, the contacts, the safety. I thought I could play both sides, keep Krasnov close, while feeding his intel to the feds. But Claire, she was smarter. She hid the key where no one would look, in her child's locket. I never meant for it to come to this." I stared at him. The man I'd once called my friend, now a ghost of himself. "And now?" "Now," he said quietly, "you disappear. Take her far away. There's a safe deposit box in Zurich, under the name Claire used, Mara Voss. Inside is a new identity, and the only file that can decrypt what's in that pendant. Keep it hidden. If the wrong people find out, they'll never stop hunting her."
He pressed something into my hand, a small encrypted drive, cold and heavy. Don't trust anyone, Daniel. Not even the law. Especially not the law. Another car engine echoed in the distance. Sirens this time. Flashing blue lights cut through the trees. Richard looked toward them, then back at me. Go. Now. I hesitated. What about you? He smiled faintly. A tired, broken thing. Someone has to tell them a story they'll believe. Before I could stop him, he turned and walked toward the approaching lights, his hands raised. The last thing I saw was the officers shouting, their guns drawn, and Richard glancing over his shoulder, meeting my eyes one last time. Then the gunfire began again. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I grabbed Lily's hand, and we ran. Through the rain, across the road, into the endless dark beyond the trees.
Hours later, as dawn broke over the horizon, we reached the edge of an old railway line. I sank down beside her, chest burning, blood drying on my hands. She leaned against me, half asleep. "Dad," she whispered, "is it over?" I looked down at her, at the tiny pendant still shining against her skin. I thought of Claire, of Richard, of all the lives twisted and broken around a secret too powerful for anyone to own. "No," I said softly. "Not yet." I lifted the pendant, turning it over in my hand. The back had a faint etching I'd never noticed before. A series of numbers, almost invisible in the light.
Coordinates. Claire's final clue. And as the first train rumbled in the distance, I realized this was just the beginning of something far bigger. Something that had started long before that call from my lawyer, and would not end until the truth itself was found.